6 p.m. First off, thank you all for being here. And at first order is I'm going to call on Mr. Shane to give us a prayer before we start our meeting.
Can we all rise, please? Heavenly Father, we thank you again for the opportunity to meet this evening to discuss our parish's home rule charter. At a time when the Holy Father has passed to you in heaven, we pray for him and the family, all Catholics, all Christians, and all people, that we may have world peace as life continues. We ask that you guide us to make good decisions, have good discussions, and work toward the betterment of St. Tammany Parish this evening. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Pat Phillips, you'll lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. A roll call, please.
D.A. Sims. Councilman Raleigh.
Here.
Councilwoman Tanner. Arlana LeBlanc. Jeff Shane.
Here.
Councilman Laughlin.
Here.
Kevin Davis.
Here.
Scott Delacroix.
Here.
General Ernst.
Here.
Gina Hayes. Councilman Impastato. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. And again, thank the staff for putting all this together. I know we have all the capabilities on the Coop Drive area, but I'm grateful that you all were able to facilitate being able to do that, and to the administration to help us to do that. I think it's important, but you know, again, not a big turnout. I think we have the folks that normally show up have showed up, now have driven to Slidell, so I thank you for that. But we'll go ahead and continue. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do I have a review and a motion?
I make that motion, sir.
Okay, Mr. Laughlin made a motion. Second, Ms. Tanner. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. All right, new business. If you have in front of you the administration Article 4. So we'll go back through that. I will say we asked staff to, if you remember in the last meeting, to do quite a bit of research for us. They're still working on that, and we should have that probably the next meeting to be able to have that information. So Article 4, the administration, I thought we'd already done Section 420.02, Chief Administrative Officer, did we not?
We did.
Does everybody agree? We reviewed that. So the Legal Department, 03, I think, because I remember Colin making discussions. There was no motions. We were just going through it, and everybody was discussing. Section 4.04, Department of Finance. As we go through that, the Director of Finance shall direct and be responsible for those items that are listed. Any comments or additional thoughts? Arthur.
I would like to entertain a discussion to see if it would be possible to make one of the Director of Finance's responsibility is to report directly to the council also. I think the council should be copied, or at least the council administrator should be copied in all reports.
Okay. So, you mean like all the monthly reports that are given to you, or?
Yeah. Or maybe the finance chair could be, just so that it's not at the meetings where we're finding out stuff, that like maybe the chair of the finance committee and the vice chair of the finance committee and the council administrator could be on kind of like a live feed to see where we are, instead of it being at a public meeting each time.
Okay. So to be reporting to the finance chair and committee, or just the finance chair?
Or the finance chair of finance, you know, whatever leadership perhaps the
Is there
council
at that
chairman
time?
chooses at the time.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'm sorry, Cheryl?
I know where you're coming from, but what we do now, and I try to go over it with the finance. Usually, Mary and I meet with Annie before the meeting and discuss everything that's coming up, and then I try and tell the finance committee if there's anything to be aware of. So I don't know.
Could there, let me ask, is your intent, because there could be a time where they could say, I'm not meeting with you, or go ahead?
Yeah, that's my only intent. I will acquiesce to your leadership, but I just want to memorialize it so that it's part of the charter, that it's a regular standing thing, that whatever you just said, like, that happens, and it's part of, it's a.
I can understand that. I have no problem with it. You know, Gina, would you like to comment on that?
No.
No, they'll turn us on.
It'll come on.
I think within the charter already, it says that the council has the option and the ability to request reports, that any reports that they need to review anything, and they can go to any, from supervisor level and up. So you can request reports from the finance director anytime you want. You don't have to wait till a council meeting. You can ask any time for reports. Any reports that you require to do your job, we have to supply to you already. It's already in the charter.
Yeah, item 7 on there, it says they're responsible for a monthly statement of revenues and expenditures which shall be completed and made available for public inspection no later than 30 days after the end of each month. So I assume that happens now.
She does the treasurer's report, and at the beginning of the year, we ask her to do some changes on the report and to add the fund balances and percentages, and that was done. So the reports gives us more information, and I have no problem if Arthur wants to put something in there, but I just want you to know that I think we're having a very good relationship with the finance director.
It doesn't sound to me like there's a real problem, Arthur. Unless you state on the record here that you have asked and have been denied a meeting with the supervisor level or above, or you've been denied the right to be given contemporaneous copies of reports that are issued. I mean, the way I look at it, and I think the public looks at it, we assume the 14 members of the parish council can walk into the president's office and respectfully request reports and then state it on the record at the monthly meeting and follow up on it and ask the finance director to come and explain things. It's, in my opinion, and I think the public perception is, the council acts like Congress. They have legislative oversight, and they can call people to come up and testify and answer them. It's taking ownership that I think the council needs to do and can do under this charter. I don't think we need any language in here to give the council any power to speak with the supervisor or above, or to ask them in a public request to come to a council meeting and address in whatever you want them to address that is parish business. To me, it's taking ownership of the finances by the parish council and running step by step with the parish president and the administration. And if you don't get what you want, you state. First, I believe diplomatically, you state in a meeting you need it. And if you don't get it, when you come to that monthly meeting, you say we need it. And when the finance committee meets, they say we need it. And I think you're going to get it. I'm not hearing anyone say, I've been trying to get information, I can't. Let me just finish one thing. One thing I have heard, and I do think this could be worked on. It seems to me, and I'm not involved in preparing the budget each year, but it seems to me like every year, every council
feels jammed when they get the budget. Having said that, I don't know what Gina and her people go through. I can imagine it's helter-skelter to get everything done. But if anything I think could be worked on in this, it would be on the budgetary side, because I think the public would like the council to not feel frustrated that they have this stack and not enough time to go through it to ask effective questions. That is where I believe there's a real issue that could be addressed. I'm sorry, Arthur, go ahead.
So, in response, unfortunately, that situation was true in the last council. We got into a situation where we would constantly at public meetings be yelling at the administration saying, we're not getting this, we're not getting this, we're not getting this. There was a period leading up to before the investigation was launched where all the meetings that we had with the directors were canceled. There was emails that went through that canceled everything, and I'll be honest with you, I kind of liked that week because I had no emails going across my desk. But the thing is when things are working good and things are working great between the council and the administration currently, but the reason why you codify things and memorialize things in documents like this are for when things go off the rails. And I think it behooves us that even if it's just copy level, like the council is copied by law in all financial correspondence. So that way, it is on us. Maybe we didn't get the report through proper channels, but guess what? You were copied that report, and it's in your email box somewhere like that. But we've gone through, and I know some of my colleagues who were on the council last year can say the same. I mean, the year before last, we did go through that dark period where there was no communication between the administration and the council.
Well, I hear you. To me, this is between the council and administration. You all know more than I know sitting here. Now, maybe Kevin and others know more, but I think this is a council and administration issue. And if you need to codify something that's not already in here, then I would personally support it. General?
I'm listening to this discussion because it's not something I have any knowledge of. But to me, you don't write a document like this, a regulation or anything based on persons or personalities. So having it codified, I think is a good thing, right? So that people change, personalities go with them. And so from my perspective, it should insult no one if you put it in here.
Yeah.
The question is what you put in.
Yeah.
If you put in something where every email of finance has
Yeah.
to be copied with 14 members of the council, I don't think that's,
Could
I
we?
think that's tying hands. I think you all have to decide.
You can definitely limit it to the finance committee, the finance chair.
Yeah, I was
Whatever the
wondering
additional interaction
if
would
we
be.
send it back to our staff to help do the research and talk to, well, Cheryl and the finance committee and those, and because tonight I don't know that we've got, author a written text. I think most people are saying, look, we could support that concept, but we need to really draft it. So could y'all do that, or? Yes?
Arthur, would it be satisfactory to you just to add paragraph 14 to say to provide financial reports at the request of the council, period?
If that's fine with Cheryl, I would.
I'm just trying to get the scope of what you all are looking for.
Just to basically say that they have to interact with us, like just like the reports and things like that. We need to be.
Could it be confused within, well, that might take, the council as a whole would have to vote to make that request. How about if you said the administrator makes the request on behalf of the council?
I think that would be appropriate, because you don't want 14 people.
I mean, I
Sending
liked what you said, Emily, but
14
my point
emails.
is,
Yeah.
somebody could say, well, wait a minute, that's a great idea and you have it in there, but that means 14 of you need to vote to ask for that information. Do you know what I mean?
So to provide financial reports at the request of the council chairperson?
Upon request
Council Administrator.
by the council administrator.
Mary, does that work for you?
Fridays are slow anyway. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Good discussion. Anything else while we're dealing with that in the finance? All right. I'm not hearing anything. Department of Public Works.
I
The-
just have one, and I think it was stated somewhere else in here. I would like to see a 5-year capital improvement plan. That has been requested numerous times. We have never received that. And I was told they kind of wanted to discontinue that. I think we need a 5-year capital improvement plan.
Okay. And you want to go, you would like to have that under
Public
the
Works.
Director of Public Works, that
Mhm.
department, to have to provide that to the parish council. Any discussion on that particular item?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to support my colleague's request and perhaps even say that it's something that should be almost like a living document. Like at the end of, you do it, first year you do a 5-year plan, and then you give us an update at the
Annual.
end of year 1, where are we on the 5-year plan?
So it should be an annual 5-year capital.
Yes, if that's correct.
The-
yeah.
Hopefully what's happening, something's falling off and something new is being added.
Yeah, especially for like, that way we know where we are with the roads, we know where we are with the drainage, and then we can kind of make a schedule.
Can I just ask what's happening right now? What is happening right now? Is there any capital project listing or plan?
We have a 5-year capital plan.
That's what I thought.
Would you see that the council gets that?
Sure. I thought you already had it, but we can absolutely get that to you.
But
Mm,
why don't we codify it in
Oh,
the document?
I have no problem
Just-
codifying it.
If everybody's
I'm
got
just-
it.
Right.
Because I'm not in the group, I'm trying to understand. Because I've
Yes.
heard these things, I've seen things put in capital budgets going back to 2010. I mean, they put the
We always
Washington
had a-
extension in 2010.
Yeah.
I mean,
We had an annual capital plan for the year, and then we had a 5-year
The
plan.
5-year capital outlay?
But
The
that's
five-
what I
not
thought. It just
outlay,
seems like
5-year
people are
capital.
being quiet about what we already have in existence. But I don't mind codifying it
Yeah, I
all.
don't know that it-
I'm fine, I have no problem with codifying it if you want it. We already do it, I just,
Okay.
not a problem.
I just wanted to make it clear because people acting like we don't have one and they don't see one. And it's
Well, I think-
perplexing to somebody that's not
You
in
said you don't
government to
see
hear
it, do
that.
you? Do you see it today?
We were told in some of our meetings that they were gonna do away with the 5-year capital plan. So I would like to make sure that
It's
it goes
in
in this document so they do not do away with the 5-year.
Okay.
I don't know whether that's true or not, Gina, I'm just.
I will tell you, that's the first I've heard of anyone doing away with the 5-year capital plan. So this is the first I'm hearing of it.
And I know it's stated further back, I think it was hit on in one of the other sections that there would be a 5-year plan.
Mhm.
I just wanna make sure nothing happens to it.
Yeah.
So,
Let's
Emily,
codify it.
can you help us with that? It would be an annual requirement to give it to the council.
All right.
I don't know, do you all want it presented, or you just want to say, give it to the council, Joe?
It just strikes me that council has to approve budgets every year. And capital plan seems to me it ends up in a budget sooner or later, right? I think it's a safe assumption. So it would be reasonable, at least in my opinion, that the capital improvement plan would be given to the council either before or about in conjunction with the budget.
I'm not sure how you all do it now. I know how we used to do it, so you're going to have to tell me.
I think it's in the budget, but I don't think it's been updated or kept up in a number of years. I would have to go back and see if I could find it in the budget and just what it entails.
And I I just want to, while we're having this discussion, point out section 505A. It says each year, no later than the time of submission of the operating budget for the ensuing fiscal year, the president shall prepare and submit to the council a capital improvement budget covering a period of at least 5 years. I just want to make sure you all know that that's currently in the charter.
Okay.
All right. So is that being asked for every year? Is the council asking for that every year and not getting it?
It will be asked for from now on.
Okay. Sure they're appropriate. Okay. I don't know that really.
Sure, you go back and look at that, and let's look at it next month,
Yes.
next meeting. I'm sorry, Larry. It'll come on.
Okay. I guess this is a question to Emily really quick. I know you just read that other section. Should it be changed to this other section that we're working on right now? I'm just wondering. I know it says the parish president does have to give us that, but should it be switched in your opinion?
Well, my concern about moving it to just Public Works is that we have more than just our Public Works department that has capital projects that are included in the 5-year plan. So
Yeah.
I think that if we were to move it to section 4 of the code rather than leaving it in section 5 of the code, we're going to have to include that same provision for any of those departments that have capital plan items.
Yeah, I think really at heart is the road projects, I think is really
Yeah.
what they want to know. But you are correct. All the other departments could have a capital expansion.
Yeah,
They could have-
engineering, utilities, all of those departments have capital projects as
Yeah.
well.
But those would be included in capital
They should be,
budgets, right?
yeah.
They should, yes.
I mean, they couldn't exist or get paid for unless they were put in the capital budget.
Correct.
I would respectfully suggest if my fellow colleagues look at section 505 and read that, it sounds as though existing law allows the council to enforce requesting that this be produced every year with all of the contents as spelled out in 505 A, B, C, D, A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I'm gonna ask Cheryl to go back and do some more research, because it appears we may be we may have it somewhere. Arthur?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that, Emily, perhaps we should make sure that the section in the part of section 5 says what we want it to say instead of making any changes in section 4. Would you
Right.
recommend that?
And I mean, honestly, what I might recommend is going back to 206, the prohibitions for the council, 206C, where it talks about council members shall have the authority to consult with and discuss problems and issues with administrative officials at the level of supervisor and above. Clarify that to include request any reports, you know, instead of going department by department about what you want from them, give yourselves that authority to request that information and receive it.
Okay, so make the change in that section versus anywhere else.
That's what I might recommend doing.
I would concur in that, because that's between the council and administration. That's your authorities to act. That gives it to you right there, and that will cover the whole charter, to act with making those requests.
Okay, one question, does that have to be done by, and I think we discussed this last time, or the time before, does that have to be done by resolution or ordinance? Because I think we had the discussion that if we did something by resolution, they did not have to adhere to it. But if we did it by ordinance, then, because, you know, we asked, I want to say, before the end of the year for a capital outlay, updated capital outlay projects by resolution, and we never did get that.
Well, we're talking here about doing it by charter, by a charter amendment, which makes it law, which you don't need a resolution or an ordinance for. The problem that we've had to date is that you all don't have that authority to receive that information.
Okay.
At least according to some people's reading of the current charter. So I think that giving yourselves that authority as a charter amendment gives you the most weight, and you don't need to then by resolution or by ordinance request it. It's just, that's an authority you have inherent to you as a council. You request it. If you don't get it, then, you know, that's when you can open an investigation, have a mandamus proceeding, or something along those lines.
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify, I had text messaged both the Director of Engineering and the Director of Public Works. We do have a 5-year capital plan. They both commented that there must be a misunderstanding. They've never ever said that they wanted to get rid of the 5-year capital plan. They both commented that every year our 5-year capital plan gets more detailed and more detailed. And they also have a 200-page capital plan supplement that details all the engineering projects and is publicly available on our website. So we do have a 5-year capital plan. I think the issue with, there may be some confusion between the 5-year capital plan and capital outlay. Capital outlay is a grant application that goes to the state. Our deadline for that, we have a very fast turnaround for that. So sometimes the council doesn't see that as quickly as they want, but that's separate from the capital, 5-year capital plan.
Do you have anybody have an issue with, in that section, just putting that they make the request, that they can request?
And I have no problem if they want to change the wording, or it's fine. We already provide it, so it's fine.
So 15 years from now, they'll know what it means.
Perfectly fine if y'all want to clarify.
Is that okay?
Yep.
So we're going to look at that as an item. Sure. All right. Anything else before I move to Department of Engineering?
Mr. Chair, can we go back to section 401?
Sure.
I don't know if I missed this because I left the last meeting a little bit early, but some thoughts about this in regards to trying to balance the power a little bit between the council and the administrative branch.
Okay.
Suggested was that maybe by a supermajority vote of the council, we could terminate a director position. And it also seems like when we do, I know we vote to approve the appointment of a director, but unless I'm missing something, it feels much more kind of like a rubber stamp instead of an actual, like it really doesn't mean anything. So I don't know if we can maybe look at rewriting this part. But I do think that would automatically give the council some more authority and be more of a part of the government.
Okay.
Section 401 under general provisions.
General provision 4-01, that first page.
Thank you.
The president appoints all of the directors, and then the council approves those appointments. But I do agree. I mean, even when I was there, it kind of was a rubber stamp. Subject to council approval, and they serve at the pleasure of the president. It's whatever your wishes are. So do you're thinking that you would like to have some regulatory authority in reference to if there was some conflict in a department and a majority of the council, I think there ought to be some large
Supermajority.
There ought to be some
10 votes.
Yeah, 10 votes to Arthur.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague. I think, Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't it my first year on the last term, didn't we have somebody who was a director who was hired, had been working, but was never approved by the council?
Yes.
I think, yeah. So I think what's the point of us having to approve them if we can't take them out of office with a supermajority? And I think that would be worth looking into if it doesn't, or cause too much trouble.
Okay. I don't think there's any cost involved with that, so if we could look at that as a potential. Now what we're doing is, folks, we're coming up with some of these ideas, and what happens is, as we get to the end, then we'll go back through these items and say, okay, is there a motion? Do we want to move on this? And then we'll kind of roll them together. We're not going to do them one at a time and send them to the council, because I just don't think that's appropriate. Larry?
This is for Emily again. That being said, do you see any kind of legal part of that if the administration hires the person and then another body hires the person?
No, not necessarily. I would want to do some more research on it. My concern is I think you're kind of creating a loophole for yourselves, though, by not requiring that directors actually be appointed, because right now anyone can act as a director or be an interim director with no consequences. So you could have an administration that only appoints acting directors that are never approved by the council, then you all don't have any means to remove them. So I think if you're going to do this, you need to tie some kind of revision into it to require an administration to have a director appointed within a certain period of time.
It's a good
Great.
point.
Good point.
Thank you,
Yep.
Emily.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Emily.
All right. Any other discussion? General?
You know, early on, we discussed how getting some balance between the executive and the legislative. It doesn't exist in St. Tammany Parish now. This is one of those things.
Yeah.
I think, I sort of agree with the thrust of the discussion. If you could appoint them, or approve the appointment, I suppose, by the council. The negative part of that is, if the councilmen are getting beat up by their constituents over a certain director, because they're the ones gonna be getting the call, they ought to be able to put a motion up, and if most of the councilmen agree with that, then that director should be removed.
Any more comments? Great, thank you. All right. Back to Department of Engineering. Any other items you think should be under that department? Looks like they got review, development, survey, mapping, secure permits, review requests for permission, engineering services to all departments and agencies. Nothing? All right, I'm gonna go to 07, 4.0-407, development. Airport, solid waste, economic growth, community development, block grants. Community development block grants. That's not under your grants, Gina? It is? Just managed by them, okay. So development handles the requests, I guess, and all the paperwork, just on the initiating, and then the grants she handles.
They work together.
Okay,
Can I ask a question, Kevin?
sure, sir.
What is the council's role in community development block grants? Does the council have a vote on which grants the parish can go after and which they should not go after?
They have to approve the final, if they would apply for a grant, and then they would bring it to the council to approve that, because it's a financial responsibility, so they'd be making some amendments.
The reason I ask is that sometimes a grant has strings attached to it by whoever's giving you the grant.
Yeah.
And it seems there ought to be a due diligence at the council before they get to where they have to approve it or disapprove it.
Yeah. I don't think they approve the merit of the grant.
What happens is, we apply for the grants. If we are awarded the grant, the council then has to approve the receipt of the award of the grant, and all the strings that are attached, because all grants have strings attached. Some
Yeah.
have different strings, but all of them have strings. Some of them have financial strings, which are matched money that's required, and some of them have other types of strings that we have to adhere to, but all of them have strings attached. So the council does have to agree to that before we accept the grant award.
Was there ever a conflict? Was there a conflict with a block grant? Was there a conflict that a block grant was requested and somebody, I don't know of one, I'm asking.
Yeah, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, that's not accusatory, I'm just trying to,
No,
I'm just
not
trying to,
Okay.
yeah. I guess, is that something that the council members would want to know about prior to, or when they make application? For a block grant? Just block grants, not some of their other grants. Basically, block grants are your community development grants.
I think it'd be a nice report to get. I don't think it needs to be in the charter. I don't have a problem with it being in the charter. It would be.
To know what's being requested.
Maybe just a reporting policy in general. It seems like a lot of this is just getting information in maybe a more efficient manner.
So with community development block grants, that is something that the parish is allocated each year. It's not something we apply for. So when we receive that money, the council does approve receiving that money through ordinance. And then when we actually decide of how we're going to use that money in projects, the council has to approve that too. So there is no application process specifically for community development block grants. It's just an allocation that we get.
Yeah, I was thinking more like it all goes through community development. They're HUD grants. I call them block grants, like the watershed grant program. I think y'all made an application and got $10 million. Did the members know that you made that? I mean, that's something I'd want to brag about. Look, we're trying to get this money from them for flooding.
That's what I'm saying. It's more than just I wasn't talking about just the community development block grants. I was talking about kind of grants in general. There are always strings attached to grants, and we do routinely apply for grants. We routinely apply for, we also get presented grant opportunities that people come to us, whether it's council members or members of the public, that they want us to, oh, you should apply for this grant. Something our grants department reviews, sees if it's something that's worth us investing our time in, if it's going to take a lot of time for a very small award amount, or if it's something that has too much of a match that we know we can't support at that time. So we try to invest our time wisely, and then, but anything that's received has to go through the council first before we can receive anything.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin, can I just?
Sure. Yes, sir.
I just thought this was interesting. In looking at the finance department, public works, and engineering, there's no reference at all to parish council in those, and I'm not saying there should be. At the very bottom of finance, it says, under 13, it says, other such activities as may be directed by the president. That's finance. Department of Public Works. At the very end, number 6, other such activities as may be directed by the president. Department of Engineering, number 8, other such activities as may be directed by the parish president. Development, last thing, is directed by the president. But at the end of A1, it's the first time I see parish council mentioned in here. And I just thought I should note that for our fellow parish council members here. If you read A1, look at the end of that. It's the first time the PC is mentioned in here. To me, that gives you some ownership for directing, discussing, being intimately involved pursuant to this charter language with that comprehensive long-range plan. Because this is in there. This is in our parish constitution right here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's your language to, in my opinion, dig into your long-range plans.
And I just want to point out too, that when we get to the end of section 4, you'll see that the charter gives the parish the authority to create and change the organization of the different departments. So right now, we don't really have a separate Department of Development, and then you'll see in section 408, Department of Planning and Permits. We have a Department of Planning and Development, and then a Department of Permits. So really, these two charter provisions if we're looking at making it match what we currently have in place, need to totally be revamped. Or we just go along with what's in section 412, allowing administrative reorganization of these charter departments and not touch them. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear to everyone, because really, section 408, most of those activities, except for item number 4, the issuing of building permits, are done by the Department of Planning and Development. Just wanted to make that point.
Yes.
Should we offer Emily to sit so she doesn't stand? Emily, would you rather sit with a mic and you can take?
Mr. Pat?
I had a question. Sir, Scott, you
Scott,
saw
yes.
at the end of the sections, you saw it state about the parish president having authority. Does one override the other? Like you mentioned earlier, it says the PC, parish council, but would it be, by it being stated at the end of the section, does that mean that the parish president would override the parish council then?
I would defer to Emily on that, but the way this reads to me, the Department of Engineering
Is directed by the administration. The Department of Finance is directed by the administration, as is the Department of Public Works. The only time the parish council, I think, has a direct charter role in directing activities is in this Department of Development, which I now hear is really being performed through the Department of Planning and Permits. For clarity, and since it's incumbent upon us to clean this up, I would propose, Emily, that we try and merge 07 and 08, and we keep in there the direction by the parish council, and it also has the activities being directed by the parish president, but it gives each or both activity in one of the biggest issues I think the voters in this parish want everybody talking about, long-range development. And I think that's a good thing. I think the council would want that, and I think the parish president would want that.
I don't think it's good to
Keep these separate right now if 407 is not a functioning department.
Emily's correct. The charter allows for administrative reorganization. So the current departments are not reflected in this charter. The current departments, there are 16 departments right now, and there are not 16 departments in this charter, because this charter allows for the reorganization, which has happened a number of times, not just once or twice or under this parish president, but under the previous parish president. So there are 16 departments, and they are not all referenced in this. So I just want to make sure that this, what you're reading here, section 409 and 410, this is not truly reflective of what we have in play right now.
Yeah, I
So-
tend to agree. I think that the Department of Development is actually describing what you want that person to do, which happens, what you all did was organize it and put it with permits. And you called it planning and permits. Or
No, we didn't. We have the Department of Development.
You
Planning
do
and
have them
Develop-
separate.
We have them separate, and then we have permits and inspections as a separate department.
So you have what kind of what the charter already has, but you don't have to have it that way.
No, correct. Any parish president can reorganize
Right.
according to this charter, and there have been several reorganizations through time.
Yeah.
So, but right now, we have 16 departments, and the things that are allocated in here
So when you
do
say the
not
Department
reflect
of, yeah.
what's exactly what's happening right now. There's an ordinance in the books right now that accurately reflects where we stand today. And one of the things I'd like to mention too, and something that's come up before, was the budgeting process. There was previously a separation of the finance department from the rest of administration. Now that's no longer the case. There is a director of finance now. It is part of the administration. And so there is already in the works the process of providing budget information and sharing work with the council much earlier this year than what it's been done in previous years. So that's already in the works.
I don't know that I see a conflict, but I certainly,
Well,
I'm open.
I'm not suggesting there's a conflict. I'm just wondering if we have a duty to try and make this current and have the charter attached to all the departments that are currently in existence, because it sounds as though there are some departments that are not, that were created pursuant to the document, but they're now in existence, they're budgeted, they're functioning, they're alive. I think that we should consider putting those live departments in this document and putting the appropriate language in there where the parish council can, and parish president have the authority to do what the parish council thinks it should do. To me, I think we're remiss if we don't bring this into 2025 and going forward.
Okay.
Cheryl.
Cheryl.
I think I have a problem putting in this charter that there should be 16 departments. What if we want to change? What if we want to downsize? What if, I think this was meant to say that these departments should be created ever how they, that the president at that time sees fit. And as long as, they are together, some of them can be together, some of them separate, but to put 16 departments and then say we have to live by that, I don't think that allows us to downsize if we need to.
Well,
I
I
would
think
rather not see that in this charter.
It does have, because when I was the first parish president, so we had to create this. And so we created departments at the time of what we thought was needed. Now, in mine, it was, permits was separate and development was completely separate at that time. But today, I think they're together. My only question would be.
We returned back to the way you had it.
You had it?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Today, answer this one for me. Is there a real Department of Development and a separate Department of Planning?
No, it's planning and development it's the Department of Development, but it's planning and development. So it's planning, zoning, that's the
Okay.
Department of Development.
So the responsibility, and let's say that is person X. So
Correct.
person X will look at this and know they're responsible for preparing and maintaining a comprehensive long-range plan.
Correct.
They also interpret land use controls.
Correct.
Correct?
Correct.
So, but under the Department of Development, all the items are different than the planning director. Do you see you see them on your list there? Like it says solid waste disposal, airport administration.
Right.
None of that is in planning.
No, it's not, and it's currently not in planning.
It's right. It's in that separate department, so I don't know.
Can I respond to Cheryl, just to be clear, and I'm not trying to be a lawyer. I would never advocate that there should be 16 departments. There will always be the section in here that allows, that's in here now, that allows the departments to go down to 5. I'm all for downsizing government. I think we have too much. I think it should address, if I were a parish council person, which I'm not, I would want my authority to address every living department right now that I would be overseeing 365 days this year, and at every council meeting and at the budget. That's just me. I would want this to accurately reflect it. If it's not accurate and we don't have this department and there's not a director.
But I think,
wouldn't want
did I
that.
not ask the question right, Gina? You do have a Department of Development,
Yes.
and you do have a Department of Planning and Permits.
No.
No.
We have a Department of Planning and Development. That's one department. And then we have a separate department, Permits and Inspections.
It does not say planning, in other words.
It's
Permits and
planning-
inspection.
Permits and Inspections is one department.
So, okay, I'm
Planning
getting
and
back to
Development
his.
is the other department.
Yeah,
Mhm.
now I understand.
16 departments.
Yeah.
We only have 12 in there.
Yeah.
It's not my point. If the parish council's happy with this,
It-
I won't push it.
Well, and.
This only has 12 departments? Or 11 departments or 12? How many departments? And we actually have 16 that the council oversees and it's budgeted for and people work in and it's not listed in here? I
And
don't think,
I can understand that, Scott, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But
I don't-
only if they're put in here, only with the provision, some provision that the council has the authority with a majority to, to abolish that department, to combine departments, to downsize when necessary, whatever.
So you don't think that the parish president alone should have that authority? I'm just asking, because in the charter it says that they create and they can dismantle a department if they wanted.
So currently, the way it works is the parish president has the authority to establish departments or reorganize departments. He makes his reorganization plan. He could, like, let's say he decides to reorganize departments or consolidate departments. He has the ability to do that. He submits that plan to the council for approval or rejection. You can't change the plan, but you can reject the plan, and then he has to change it and come back again for approval or rejection. Sort of like you do with the directors. He appoints a director, he comes to you for your confirmation of that director. You can even approve that director or reject that director. But you don't get to choose your own director. I'm just saying how it stands right now. You don't get to hire the director, he hires. But you get to approve or deny.
Yeah.
You can't choose.
Right.
And it's the same way with the reorganization. He does the reorganization, then he brings it to the council. You either approve it or deny it. And then if you should deny it, then he has to come back to you with a new plan.
Right.
And he would have to continue coming back until you approve something. So
Right. You're right.
you do have some control. The same thing with the directors upon hiring.
Yeah, these departments, I remember going from the police jury to this forum, these departments were critical. So that's why they're named in here. Because let's be frank, you don't have the trace in here, you don't have recreation in here, you don't have utilities in here, you don't have animal control. So I think these were all, when we were on the police jury, said these are important. Planning, and that's why these are actually mentioned. But other departments have been created by following the charter, and they're created by the parish president and approved by the council.
Correct.
So if you say, well, we really don't want that department, you would have to do that. I guess that the only time that that's done, Gina, is the first term, each term. It's done at each term. I mean, you could come in the middle of the year, but
He
typically.
could come in at any point and
Yeah.
decide to change, reorganize, but he would have to present that to the
To the
council for
council,
approval.
yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Scott.
Cheryl, and I would propose, if you turn to section 412, this is administration reorganization. This vests total control to propose that in the parish president. And we all know, we're talking down the road, not anybody personally right now. I think this should have something built in for the parish council, because I think Doge and St. Tammany Track is going to get traction in this parish. And I believe the parish council should have authority, along with the president, to propose reorganization. Let's say the parish president doesn't go along with the reorganization that the people are starting to think we should have. We have a lot of boards and commissions, a lot of lawyers for every board, every commission. There may be some plan to say reorganize this. If the parish council doesn't have some beef in here where you can propose it and have a vote on it, then you're powerless. My concern about having this as a living document now was simply to have it true to how parish government exists now. I don't care if it doesn't happen like that. I do believe, though, that the reorganization should not rest on one person. It should be given to the parish council through, I don't know if it's a supermajority or regular, maybe a supermajority, because you're delving into the administration's appointees or hires, if you will. But I think you should consider that, because unless the parish finances turn around magically rather quickly, I think this parish is going to be looking at some reorganization.
So.
I'm good
would you-
with that.
Would you not agree that that would then go back into section 2, not necessarily the administrative section? Wouldn't it go back into the council's authority, giving them authority to do that?
I don't know if 2 gives them authority under 412. I don't know if it does.
In other words, all my question is, section 4 is administrative, all the duties of administrative. Would you not want to put, if you were going to do that, wouldn't you put that under the council?
I mean, I think that you could add it to the authority of the council, but I think you should also then say in 412A, you know, the president or a 2/3 majority of the council may propose, and then you may have to also
I think that's what
add revisions to B and C.
I think that's what you.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think that, and that brings the people more into it because
Yeah.
they can lobby their representatives. If
So
they-
in both locations.
Right.
Right, and not to be a stickler, but just that, listening to what something Mr. Delacroix said, if you talk about boards and commissions and abolishing those, the council does have that authority later on in the charter. That's not included here with administrative reorganization. When we're talking about administrative reorganization, we're talking about just those departments of parish government.
Correct.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Chair, can I ask a question? Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe.
If we know several of the departments that exist are not on here anyway, is it not just possible to have one that covers all departments? Do we have to have specific ones for each department in the charter? Can't that be created a different way?
Whatever you all would like to do, we certainly can recommend. I think it was taken from the knowledge of the time.
Sure.
In 2000, that we had a Department of Engineering and we wanted them to do these things.
I can look at a couple charters and see how they handle.
I've seen a bunch where they don't have every department listed in it, and
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
So I had a question for my colleague, Mr. Stoddard. Do you mean just like have a general generic one that's department related?
Yes.
So like the, under the, and you just insert the department name later, like,
Right, then if you bring in, like an animal services or a new department, they would follow by the same basic.
but still have the same
procedures.
template?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I have a
Okay.
question, Kevin, about another issue. when we're
Go
ready.
ahead.
Yeah, I would just like to request from legal, not today, just to add to their kind of list of research, if there's any need from y'all, if y'all want to make any changes to 407 number B as it relates to section 407A1 and then 408-3, if that's okay, if the language itself is fine, or does it need any changing? But this can be for later. This is not a question for today. Yeah.
Is there somewhere in the charter in reference to the land use plan update? Wasn't there an area that every so often it has to be updated? Because I know it's in, right now it's under.
I mean, if you look at 407B, it talks about the land use, the long-range plan being presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission to the council on a yearly basis in January. That's the only mention of how often it needs to be brought to the council of the Planning and Zoning Commission. But in terms of how regularly it needs to be addressed, it's not currently in the charter.
I know we did 2025 and y'all just finished 2040. I thought somewhere in there we had every so often you had to do, you know, the public meetings, because everything's changing, you know, where you want residential, where you want commercial, is all of that. There's nothing in there?
It may be in the ordinances, I don't believe it's in the charter.
Okay. Jeff, I'm sorry. Just yell at me.
Press the button until I don't have to press the
Throw
button.
something
It's
at
kind
me,
of
I'll
nice.
get-
I didn't know it was different in the east than it was in the west, but I'm learning a lot of things
Everything's
are
different
different.
in the
Yeah,
In the
you
east,
stole
you
my
just
line,
yell,
man.
Kevin, I'm over here.
You took my line. No, but I'm wondering, since we're spending a good bit of time, and I think it's been good discussion, would it make sense to have the administration go to the directors and provide us what they believe the scope of the things that they do for all of the existing departments?
Mhm.
I'm not suggesting that we embody that into an amendment, but we're dancing around the people that really are the ones that are doing it. I would be interested to see, did I hear that we might have 16 departments now? Well, it would seem to me that if the administration would help us as it relates to the departments that were not created or mentioned in the charter, and even the ones that are mentioned or created in the charter, I don't suggest we have to get a laundry list of 100 things, but we know the scope of what we're trying to do, and we might be able to better evaluate. Charter changes do not happen often. So even though the departments, the number of departments, the powers, et cetera, I mean, that reorganization provision is the key to this whole issue. But I'm not so sure this isn't a good time for us to reset and delineate what our departments are and what we expect their responsibilities to be. I think the public will view that as being something very constructive coming from this committee and the council, trying to let it mirror up with reality. And again, we have, I think this idea of the check and balance of giving the council some opportunity to have input makes sense as well. So
That's a
maybe we
good point.
think about that.
I just wanted to point out, if you look at section 2-183 of the Code of Ordinances, not of your charter, the duties of the departments are all laid out in the ordinances themselves as part of the administrative reorganization plan.
With the 16 current departments.
Correct.
It's there already?
Yes, it's in the Code of Ordinances,
It's in the ordinance.
section 2-183.
So that's the resource then that we need to be looking at and to see if we think that's an appropriate addition to the charter, which is a big question, whether we should add it.
We can get a copy of that. Yeah. Could you just send that out to the members, if you don't mind, please? So they can review it before. All right, could we keep moving along? Where did I leave off here? We did development, planning permit, Department of Community Action. Now we're getting into personnel. Arthur.
Yeah, I would just like to point out, I believe we just need to update under personnel G and H, and perhaps it might occur again. We don't have a Greater Slidell Area Chamber of Commerce anymore. I think we need to update that to it, maybe East St. Tammany Business or.
I'd like to talk about that section. I would like this committee to consider getting rid of F, G, basically getting rid of the personnel board. The reason is because all the personnel board does is it hears, well, first of all, like Arthur said, some of the people that are supposed to be appointed to this board, these organizations no longer exist. And then getting all the appointees to this board is very, very difficult. In the past 6 years, we've called this board to convene twice. Both times were to hear the grievances of a person who had been terminated from parish government. Both times, well, I will say, one time the board asked us if we would consider rehiring that person. We said no. The board only has the authority to listen to the grievance. They do not have the authority to overturn the termination. So it's a shame, but it's a waste of time for these board members. And it's also, I feel, almost like we're leading this employee on. What's the point of making a terminated employee come give their grievance before a board that can do nothing for them anyway? So something needs to be changed. In any event.
It's a good point.
Well, that's a better point than mine.
I did-
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of it.
I didn't know when it was drafted that they didn't have the authority. I thought that they did, so.
No, they do not have the
If they don't have the
authority to
authority,
rehire.
I agree with you, then why
Yeah.
are we bothering them? Plus, then they gotta fill out that crazy form that I have to fill out.
Mm-hmm.
If there's no legal impediment to getting rid of these, based upon what we just heard, I would remove it.
Should there, I'm sorry?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if we would think about taking this out, is there anything else that an employee could do that's in the charter that we haven't gotten to yet? Or is it pretty much, this was it
No.
with no authority, like you said?
This is basically it. Louisiana is an at-will state. So once we terminate employment, and our employees are not civil servants. So we're not under any kind of requirement to keep them employed. And under the personnel board, it says, let me see if I can find it. If the grievance is not satisfied, wait, this might not be the right section. Here it is. The personnel board shall have no right to reinstate employment, award monetary amounts, or otherwise act contrary to the parish's at-will employment status. So the personnel board really serves no purpose.
Yeah, but you guys can remove the personnel board member, which is interesting.
Right.
Yeah, they can remove the member who's there. Crazy. We goofed. I think the intent was to, I think the intent was to give the employee, you know, back in the day, people would come in the office and say, "You're fired." I don't, you know, for no reason. I don't think that happens today because of litigation and issues that could happen
Correct.
in the private sector. But I know when I was Secretary of Homeland Security, the state was, and ours were not civil service in my department. If a director, deputy director terminated an employee, they had the option to come back to the director and appeal it directly to the director, which was interesting, I thought.
Right. Well, right now, our employees have the right to appeal when their termination. They appeal it to the Human Resources Director. If she upholds the termination, then they have the right to appeal to me, the CAO. If I uphold the termination, then they have to go to this board. They send their letter to the board. We have to reinstate this board.
Yeah, I agree.
Get all of these organizations to give us their nominee, to get this board back together. So you're talking about months later before we're able to, we try, but you know, some of these boards no longer exist.
Yeah, I
and
would
Anyway,
say
then
good.
they all come together, this person comes in, it's kind of like leading the employee on, I feel. They're not
I
able to
agree.
move on with their life.
Couldn't you do that by ordinance, Emily? The procedure for employees' appeal process? And just do it by an ordinance and not put it in the charter? I mean, I don't, and just take it all out.
Right.
No,
Right.
so, because that way the
Right.
public's not gonna you know, they're gonna think that we're trying to eliminate the process for the employee who's treated wrongly, but there would be another process, which you just described.
Correct. Well, that's the process that we use now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
The
I'm
first
saying-
part, the second part is kind of pointless, but
You
we
could do
it.
that by ordinance and not do it in here.
Correct, correct.
Okay, so, Mary or Christine, we're look at taking
And
that
H.
section completely out. That would, is that okay with everybody?
I agree with
I and J.
Gina, I think,
Mhm.
what is it, F?
F
G and
through
H
J.
should be taken out.
F
G, H, I, and J.
Yes.
Wait, what are the letters again?
F, G, H, I, and J.
Oh, wow, okay.
But important, you take those out, but substitute with an ordinance.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that there is, as
A
Mr. Chairman
mechanism.
Davis said, protection.
There's a
Okay.
process,
There's a process.
which they're doing today. You just take their process. All right. Any other discussion on that? Hearing, let's go to 411, other departments. Agencies function. I don't see an issue. Do you all? It's really talking about the existence of agencies and offices and the reorganization.
I think what we're looking for here is the added language for the council.
Yeah.
That's it, okay.
Under Section A or somewhere in that section, yeah. Financial procedures, Article 5-01, fiscal year. Operating budget. Discussion.
Need to change that 90 days. I've got a real problem with it.
Which item are you talking
Section
A
5.
502. 90 days does not
I-
give the,
You're thinking 120. I will tell you from experience, and Gina, the budget is there's not enough money to do everything everybody wants, but it is a pretty big budget. So it's time consuming to develop that budget, I know. Even though you have the beginning of last year, so you know you already have the beginning of a budget. Maybe 120,
Gina,
120 days?
any comment?
I mean, if that's what's in here, we'll adhere to it. I think it's gonna be very difficult for finance to get the full budget ready for presentation to the council, official presentation to the council, at that time, but if you put it in here, we'll find a way to do it. I mean, like I said, we plan on working more closely with the council this time, this year, and you'll see drafts of the budget as it's being drafted, but getting it all together and finished in time, I mean, if you change it, we'll do it. We'll find a way to do it.
Mary?
Can I maybe recommend that maybe at 120 days, we get a draft budget, and then at 90 days, we get a final budget. That's way we could start working on it, but it still gives them time to finish it up.
Yes.
It wouldn't be,
That's a-
it wouldn't be a
that's a
final
great-
document, it'd be like a working document.
Correct.
A working.
That would be much,
And I'd recommend to you all that you stamp it that way, so if it does get out anywhere.
Yes.
Say, well, yeah, those numbers may change.
yes.
What we do now, too, Gina and I have talked about, is when they present the budget, it's gonna say proposed budget.
There you go.
And then, so when the council adopts it, after, if they make any changes, so everyone understands, they're looking at a proposed budget, and then we'll do a final budget.
Correct. And in years past, with the budget that was given out, the proposed budget that was given to the council is in a pretty form, and it's got a little picture on it and everything. Well, any changes to that were never given out again. So to the public, it could look like that was the actual budget, and the budget amendment was just a little packet of paper.
Right.
We're going to do the reverse of that this year. This year, you will get something that says proposed budget. It's not going to be pretty. It's just going to be a stack of papers, probably with a binder clip. That will be the proposed budget. The final budget is when you will get, after the council makes the changes, then it will be printed, bound, and everyone will get a copy of the actual adopted budget, and it will say adopted budget on it.
Yeah. So a consensus kind of is to at least 120 days, a proposed,
I would like
a
for
draft.
120 days to have a draft of the
draft.
proposed budget to the council, then 90 days the proposed budget.
Okay. We got that?
And I
Everybody
think,
okay? Arthur?
Does that work with you?
I think it will, because I think Gina and I know Mary has talked, and we've talked, to get more involved, let us more involved so we know what. It's really hard to be presented 90 days before the end of the year a budget you've never seen. If we're along with it and working on it, then that, you know, the draft would also, but we do need that time to work on it. You cannot go over that budget
Okay.
in 90 days.
Arthur?
All right, so I agree with what everybody's saying. I just have one question. Forgive me, I'm going to show my ignorance. Is there any, my first question would be for administration, is there any parts of the budget or requirements that you think are not, that there were, because the budget, it looks is as big as this, you know, but like the parts that the council and the parish government actually control is probably about this size, you know, because there's so many pass-through agencies. For lack of a better word, there's a lot of filler in there. Gina, is there any way, or maybe legal, is there anything in there that we could cut out, or maybe reformat it to make it look like, hey, this is the part we control, this is the rest that just flows through?
So the budget will be in a different format this year. It'll be much easier to read. So that's to start off with. Unfortunately, some of those things that the charts and there are certain sections that are required by the legislative auditor that will have to stay in the budget. So some of those, that paperwork, but it will look different than the rest of the budget. So it'll be more easy for you to determine what is ours and what's the pass-through agencies.
Right.
It'll be a little bit clearer this year, and you'll be able to see, like I said, the documents. And when you look at, you can look at all the different municipalities and jurisdictions, you can see they all have that same, those first few pages that are required by the Louisiana Legislative Auditor. You can see they all look the same throughout all the different jurisdictions. So those will have to stay in order for us to meet our requirements.
And then my second question is, with the Munis reboot, now that we're on the newer version, are we able to get like some type of electronic versions that we could, instead of getting a paper version of the budget, could we get like almost like
Not
a huge
yet.
spreadsheet that we could crunch the numbers on?
We're working on that. Not yet.
Gotcha,
But
okay.
hopefully in the future, yes, but not yet.
Okay.
Question.
General?
If the budget goes to, the budget goes to the council for approval, what is the council's real ability to do budget analysis? Is the council staff to do budget analysis?
Yeah.
So I can tell you what happened last year when I was council administrator. So last year when the council received the budget, I spent one whole week working on the budget. So I did the majority of the budget analysis for them. And then when I had questions, I went with Annie, and Leslie Long, who at this time was our CFO, and we worked out those questions as they came up to better understand them.
It just strikes me that
Pat, are you asking a question?
Yes, please.
Maybe 1 minute. General, does that answer your question?
It just strikes me that the council ought to have someone, if you do approval of the budget, analysis of the budget, and some means to monitor execution of the budget should be in the council. Right now, they don't have dedicated resource for that.
I don't know that they, yeah. I understand what you're saying, and certainly the perfect world would be to have some analysis. So how would we get there? We'd have to put in the budgets some funding for somebody to do the analysis. Is that kind of, I don't know. In general, is that kind of?
I'd say a dedicated resource that could, one person maybe.
Last year, because it was my first year as administrator, honestly, I wasn't really sure. It was very helpful because I was a director, so I understood our budget to begin with, which was huge. We did consider and we did interview someone to help us with the budget, but it ended up not being needed. We also taken over the budget of our auditor, and that is another resource we can use if we feel we need to, because they are familiar with our budget if we had questions moving forward. But last year, what we're trying to do in reorganizing the council office is to make sure we have support so I can, as administrator, spend more time on the budget and those kind of issues. Because it was very difficult to balance last year between the budget and our everyday duties. We did it, and I hope, I've heard back from some councilmen that they really liked the improvements from last year, and we're hoping to continue that. But like I said, we can do that if we want to. We haven't seen a need yet. That is something we could hire if needed.
But I would think you could do that through ordinances again, through acquisition of somebody. Don't you think? I mean, I agree with you, General. I think the assessment is definitely needed, and it sounds like they're getting there. I don't know that you need to draft something in here specific to that. Do you all?
Well, but we will need the ability to enter into a contract. That is part of the problem. That's something we discussed earlier. I mean, I think when we talked about it last year, we could have, I know there's a very small cap, but if we would need assistance like that, I don't know if the charter enables us to enter into that agreement and make sure somebody's paid.
Well, I'd have to yield it to them. I say you do have the authority by ordinance to hire for a specific purpose, but I would yield to legal's opinion. And a general came up with a good idea in previous meetings where to make sure that the parish government has the authority to do outsourcing.
Right.
But
we should certainly take
how do we
to
get the
cleared
council in a position that they can authorize and execute if they wanted to? Emily, can you research that if you?
Yes.
Poor Pat.
Yes, I will. I haven't received that legal question specifically, but it is something that I will research. But again, going back to the council's auditing authority in section 2, I think that is something that they should have the authority to have, to procure professional services for that purpose.
Can you help us in reference to that process when you're doing that research? Typically what happens is the parish council will pass an ordinance, let's say for something, the administration handles it, right? I think in this case, what the general and some of us are thinking is we want the council to review that, to be involved in that assessment, correct? Does that make sense? So I don't know how to verbalize that. Okay. I'm sorry, Arthur.
No, I just raised my hand.
Okay.
I think we should, to build on what the general has said and what my colleague, Mr. Impastato, said, I think because we're planning this not for now, not for who we have now on our team, but who's going to be there in 20 years or 15 years. I think we should specify, after Emily gets back to us, where we need to do the professional service, that the council should have the ability either to utilize the auditor in a greater, expand the role if they want to, at the council chairman's, the council can decide to hire an outside agency to help them with the budget during budget time, or to check back on the budget on a quarterly basis to review the execution.
Yeah, and it's like I said before, your redistricting is a council function, so they ought to take some quotes from people and then make a decision on who they want to use, and then drive the train.
Right, and write the check too. So.
And somehow pay the individual, so I don't know how we get there.
Okay.
Or really anything ordinance related, we should just have the ability to do it, and we'll cover everything.
Right, I agree with you. General, you okay? Pat?
Well, first, I wanted to agree with the general. I think council and I think Joe and Arthur are saying the same thing. I think having it in the charter would be better to say the council shall have a person that they either hire, but if you hire them, you're going to have staff, that's additional cost, or contract out to an organization like an auditor or whatever, other than what's at St. Tammany, so it's an outside source to go over the budget. There might not be somebody like Cheryl or somebody that's part of the council to do that all the time. Of course, she would somebody like her would work with that person or group or whatever. So I think that's a great idea. That'd be in line with the Doge concept.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The other part was at 120 days when the draft comes in, does that just go to the finance committee or does that go to all the council members at a meeting?
I think it'll go to the council. It just
Okay.
in general
And it would
goes
be
to
the
the
same
council.
thing for the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All
Ms.
right.
Joycelyn?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a thought or a recommendation regarding the in-house for the council, auditing person to deal with the budget. And I'm certainly not gonna fire anybody, so don't accuse me of that, or suggest that. But perhaps that should be something that in the future should be a requirement of administrative position to have that ability, one of them, and that person's always there. Not that that would be her only job or his only job, just a thought,
It's a thought. Mm-hmm.
something to consider, because it won't be, that way if anything comes up, they're always there to answer the questions.
It's a highly skilled.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's a
well,
highly skilled.
Well, y'all make the, I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's public service.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I don't know,
Yeah.
but if it could be built in.
I think it's a good comment. Yeah. It's like they were able to cut some things in their council budget. So, so you would then be able to, if the ordinance was in place and you saved $100,000 and you wanted to hire somebody for $20,000 to review, you'd have it in your budget already. So it didn't cost any more money for those that think it does.
And I think it's important to remember the point of like government finances, while it is complicated, it should be very transparent.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be difficult and only a CPA should understand it. If that's the way it is, then parish government isn't doing their job, right? That's if things are being moved around too much or being labeled something they aren't, I think that's a problem, right? It should
Yeah, I
be
agree.
anybody in this room should be able to open our budget and understand how money is moving and what's being done. So I think we have to keep that in mind. I do think a full-time person would be a waste. Those positions,
Oh,
those
yeah.
kind of qualities, but being able to be able to contract that out when needed,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the most appropriate. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with you from that perspective. But let's be honest. Come this budget cycle, there's going to be some issues. So you're going to need some capability to be able to say, well, I'm just talking. We're going to take money out of this department and we're going to move it over here. All right, what does that do to this department? And,
Mhm.
and
But I don't know if a financial person, I mean, that's just finding money and plus and minus, right? And that wouldn't be like
But
the
it's-
efficiency by that
Mhm.
director would have to tell you what that would do to service.
yeah, but it's still, it's not, it's still complicated
Yeah.
to be able to do that, so. All right, any other discussion? None, so we're gonna add that. Did y'all look at 504 budget documents? 504. We got about 30 minutes here. Amendments to operating budget. Gina, any issues from your perspective? Supplemental appropriations, emergency appropriations, reduction by ordinance, anything that's caused the administration grief, and then if the council has any.
We're good.
Okay, I don't hear anybody, so I'm gonna move on. Capital improvement budget, each year no later than the time of submission of the operating budget. They shall prepare and submit to the council that capital improvement budget, covering a period at least 5 years.
Mhm.
General summary of its context, list all capital improvements and acquisitions. Okay. Is the 10 days an issue? You have 10 days from published journal prior to the date of such hearing. That's not been an issue, has it? Because you only get one, you only advertise in the farmer, so I don't know if that creates you any issue. 10 days?
Yeah.
You were able to work through it? Okay. All right, 5.06, Administration Operating Capital Improvement Budget. Deficit spending is prohibited, so lapse of appropriations. The capital shall stay in force, capital improvement, so. Anything with the bonded, 5.08, bonded debt. The journal at least 45 days prior to the proposed date of the election. Has that been any issues? I guess we've met it, so I don't, doesn't sound like it's been an issue, huh? What about 509 from a legal perspective, 509, electronic signatures? You know, when we did this, there was no internet. I know that's hard to believe, and I got a lot of gray hair, but we didn't have internet back then. But I would think electronic, like I sign a lot of documents through the internet, you know.
So I guess that's.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emily, legal related, I mean, do you think there's any, just in 2025 right now, is there any other wording that should maybe be added to this to make sure of coverage?
I mean, no, I'm impressed by the forethought of
Right.
people that wrote this in the year 2000 to include that, because a lot of this is done by electronic signature instead of wet signature, but I don't know if there's anything that needs to be changed at this point.
Somebody on that charter knew we were going to have internet. That's what it was.
I can
But
tell
they
you-
forgot to buy the stock. That's the problem. Thank you. All right, Article 6, Initiative and Referendum.
Mr.
We got
Chair?
about 20 minutes here.
Should we consider tabling that due to time and push that to next week?
Sure. I mean, we don't have much. Only thing I wanted to make a couple of comments in summary and then see if we had any public comment. Is that okay with everybody? We're just gonna, we'll end it there. The only public comment I did want to make, that there was, sometimes we send emails, and I thought the general sent one recently that was very informative, and I'll be happy to put that on. I think it was very appropriate about how do we look at consolidation. Is that an option? And I'm not sure legal that is a charter. I'd like you to look at that. I don't know that you saw the thought process, and I thought it was very good. I understand what it's trying to stop all the redundancies.
Sure. So if you look at section 902, special districts, it says any special district heretofore established or an existing St. Tammany parish shall continue to exist. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong section. I'm 808 is where I should be. So if you look at 808A, it says that St. Tammany Parish has the power to abolish any agency that it creates, and then paragraph B says may consolidate and merge into itself any special district or local public agency, except for a school district, obviously. And there are certain limitations related to primarily any bonded debt of those agencies and disposition of any indebtedness. But as a general proposition, the parish has the authority to abolish, merge, or consolidate any districts that it creates, including fire districts, recreation districts, sewage districts, and such. But it's something that you all may want to become familiar with for our next meeting. If
Yeah.
something you want to seriously consider.
Now, in this, for y'all to think about it, it appears, correct me if I'm not right, the consolidation or merger shall become effective only if approved by a majority of the electors therein in the parish as a whole, or by a majority of those in the special district.
So that's for consolidation and merger.
Yeah.
Parish can abolish agencies without a vote of the electors, but in order to consolidate or merge certain districts, it has to go to a vote of the electors of those districts.
Okay. And I think that's what we're talking. It may be some looking at abolishing, but there may be some others that we're talking about. Could you take 14 bodies and make them into 3?
Right.
That would take a vote. Right?
Yes. I guess the other question is, could you abolish them and then a month later reestablish them without a vote?
Well, that's true. Yeah, maybe you better look at that. I don't.
Boards and commissions like fire districts, recreation districts, sewer districts, anything that's created by the parish council, any administrative board created by the parish council.
And that's all on that list. And online.
Yes.
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 Yeah, you can look at that list.
Yes.
Boards and commissions.
Yes.
Pardon me?
But not all are the same. Some are states. So it's
Yeah.
only the ones that were created. For example, the library was not created by the council. That's created by the state, so we can't touch that one. Right?
That's
Is
in
that
that same list.
is that correct, Emily?
Correct.
I
I
think.
thought I was on a roll.
You sounded like.
I did.
If you all created a parish library, you could abolish the parish library. You just can't serve as the board of the parish library. They all have little intricacies, little nuances. For the most part, for a board that's created by the parish council, you all could abolish it without a vote, or consolidate or merge districts with a vote of the residents or the voters in that district.
Like, we can abolish it, we can create it, but if you had to create a fire district, you still have to go back for a vote. Kind of taxing
And I think that that's
funding
why
source.
this language requires a vote of the electors therein, because most of them do have millages that
Have a
are going
tax,
to
yeah.
require those that aren't paying it to vote to opt into paying it, or if there's a difference in the millage, to adopt a rate for those consolidated or merged districts.
So even if the millage, say you wanted to abolish it and recreate it, and everybody was paying a millage, but the millage is gonna be lowered, could we do that?
I mean, I'm gonna need to research that specifically, but presumably, the way that the charters are written currently, you all could abolish a fire district that currently has a millage. The millage then is also abolished, and any monies that it has are returned to the taxpayers. And then if you all were to create a new fire district that encompassed the same or a different area, you would then have to go back to the electors of that district to create a new funding mechanism, a millage or whatever it is going to be.
Yeah. And I want everybody to understand,
That's too much power.
we're not saying do that. We
No,
just
this
want
is
to
an
be able to
example.
make sure
It's
we.
just-
Right, but the authority is.
Yeah, we're just giving examples, because I don't, nobody up here is going after these that were mentioned. We're just talking about what is the authority and how do you do that in the future. So,
Also, you would need to get the bond attorney involved, because if these millages are attached to bond issues,
Right, that's a
then
whole nother.
they cannot be abolished.
right, I think all that has to be reviewed. It really is, yeah.
If you look at 808C, it says if the special district or public agency which is consolidated or merged has any outstanding indebtedness, the authority provided by this section shall not be exercised unless provision is made for the retirement or assumption of the indebtedness.
The important thing is having a list so that the right people in the council
Can look at what everything on the list is costing. I'm not suggesting any state agencies. I'm talking about boards, commissions, lawyers, multiple lawyers for multiple boards and commissions, and getting down to the nitty-gritty so that the council sees it all and the public gets to see it and they get to weigh in. That's what it's all about. Oh, yeah. And you do a great job, Emily. You really do.
And at the last meeting, the DA brought it up, I think it was in reference to the mosquito district, and he, at the end of when he has virtually almost no money, and then other agencies have an abundance of money, in some cases more than almost a year's worth of revenue in a bank. And so there's something wrong with that picture, with all that, particularly with all the overhead that goes with that. As Scott said, attorneys, CPAs, and so forth. The whole idea is, once you look at the list, then determine, do we want to do something? And if so, what? And what can you harvest out of that in terms of returning money to the taxpayers?
The whole goal is to save money and have it be more efficient. That's the goal. So I think that's kind of what we're. Yes, ma'am.
Everybody knows that.
Can you give me your name?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen. I'm a huge advocate of the library. So my question is, if it is just being a member of the public, and we just voted to dedicate the tax, you've mentioned the mosquito board, abatement, or whatever that is, and my fire district, like I looked at my tax, and I'm like, yes, I want my money to go to the schools, so I voted for that. I want my money to go to the library, I voted for that. I live in the rural district, I need the mosquito abatement, people. We need that so that we can go outside. So I just want to kind of just say that to everybody here, like those of us in the public, we voted to have those monies. And sometimes, like Mr. Carl, they are required, I think, and maybe you can correct me on this, they are required to keep a certain amount of monies for in those entities in escrow to have for, so that is accounted for, and they can do enhanced audits to look at their finances and go, okay, this is great. Is there a mechanism, let's say there is an overage and the entity says, I don't need, we've got this covered. Is there a mechanism to give it back to the people?
Not that I'm aware of, no, ma'am. And let me say, I don't. I want you to. I don't want to step on toes. So I'm trying to be cautious, but there's an assessment done on all the parish properties, not just parish government, everybody's property, and that assessment is then told to each taxing body, roll back, and this will happen. How do I say? No, your did, yeah. Like the Slidell one, roll back. They told them to roll back. They roll back. The problem was they weren't told to roll back enough. So whoever told them, I know who it is, but whoever told them to roll back didn't do it, didn't get the right number. And what happens is, because I know my taxes went up $1,000, and there was, everybody rolled back in my district. So how did my taxes go up $1,000? Okay, so that I'm just trying to. Yeah, and I'm probably going to hear about it now.
Learn this process of government, and how this works.
Yeah, thank you for. We appreciate you coming. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, but I think most of the taxing bodies take the advice of the people who give it, who are supposed to know the numbers, and they roll back or roll up, whatever the case may be. But I think it's incumbent upon, I think what the general and most of us are thinking, and I'm with you, I like to know where my money's going. Even when I was parish, I want to know, okay, I'll vote for that because I like it, but I know the money goes there. A lot of people, And somehow we need to either build the credibility, but a lot of people are like, I'm not giving you money to go to a general fund. You see what I'm saying? But I think what we're saying is there any duplication, and can it be reduced to save you money?
And that is my fear, that I all of you that are on the council, that just remember that your constituents have voted to have those particular entities funded.
Yeah,
Because
agree with
we did not have trust in
I
a
agree.
general fund to make sure that we had those services. So
I mean,
I just wanted to say that out loud.
Yeah, I mean, you hear that from the state. Ideally, the general fund is the best way to run government. The problem is, what I may think we should fund,
Right.
other people don't think you should fund.
Right.
Does that make
Right.
sense? Yeah.
Which was great, because we the people got to vote.
Correct.
And we said, yes, we want the library.
I 100%
Um,
with you.
So.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that.
Cheryl, go ahead.
Also keep in mind that some of these entities, since we collect taxes in the rear, they have to keep X amount of dollars in order to operate and have cash flow until they get their taxes.
Yeah.
So that makes a difference in how much they have cash-wise and in their fund balance.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variables involved, but I mean, even in parish government, we used to keep the money because we wanted that AA rating. If we kept money in there in our reserves, we got a real good rating. So when we went to do a bond, we got 3% interest instead of 8%. All right, Mr. Law.
All right, on a lighter note, first of all, I want to welcome everybody again and thank y'all for coming to Slidell. It really means a lot to us to have this over there. And in addition to the regulars who I see here, and I really appreciate y'all coming, I learned by responding to an email that Christine had shared, there's a select group of 4 people who watch us religiously, and I believe they're in Jeff Corbin's district, in District 13.
Yeah.
And they're really nice, and I just want to say hi to them out there. I told them I would single them out, so.
We appreciate it. Yeah, we usually have the gentleman that comes online with us. Thank you, Arthur.
Yeah.
Some observations and a couple of comments. First of all, I see 3 overarching themes here, which are good, and I've heard them over the last several meetings. One has to deal with increased council oversight, and I'll give you an example with another problem that recently cropped up. The thing you all talked about today was problem anticipation. Everything's running great, but is there a hole in the charter that is going to present a future problem? And no offense intended, I heard a couple of words today, and these are my favorite words. In fact, I got on my wife the other day, and she gets on me. Someone said the word assume. And, okay, we assume. The general here used to parachute, and when he jumped out, he assumed the parachute was going to open, but he had a reserve. So anticipating the problem, and that's what I think you all are doing. You're looking at what's there and looking for those little holes that need to be plugged. And I think generally, just from what I'm hearing and reading, it seems like the home rule charter has been written pretty well. In fact, someone mentioned it looked like they anticipated the future when they wrote it years back. And the third theme, which is coming out this evening, efficiency. And it gets back to trust. You're right. Why in Louisiana do we always vote for dedicated funds? Because we don't trust putting money in the general fund and having it go to popular projects. One of the things that was said, I was shocked to find out how many departments we had. Holy moly. And this is an interesting thing. The council and administration can create a department, but this is where the oversight comes in. It's operating. So how is it operating? And if there's a problem, how does the council have some input to correct that problem? One small example, and believe me, since I've gotten involved with my neighbors, I see these problems all the time. Sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. And that problem that results from that is it winds up in the council member's lap. And he gets the phone call, and he gets the anger when it's undeserved. My neighborhood has been in a building moratorium for going on 2.5 years. We're also in an area of concern for flooding. So there's no net fill, and you have to build a raised house and so forth and so on. During this building moratorium, within the last 30 days, 2 new permit signs, building permit signs appeared. How did that happen? We're in a building moratorium. It seems that, and maybe, again, planning is not talking to permits and inspections. Some low-level administrator made the decision, oh, okay, we'll grant those permits. For whatever reason they did that. Well, when the signs appeared, the neighbors, what? Wait. And the councilman got a call. So again, the councilman winds up with this in his lap because someone low level in the administration did something that was obviously not permitted. So I think when you're looking at, and again, you guys are at the macro level, and I'm with the infantry down in the trenches, and I'm seeing what's going on, like my neighbors. And man, I hear the word trust all the time. Somehow or another, and it doesn't have to deny the parish president his due authority, but there needs to be a little more oversight where the council members can intervene in some way or get informed in some way when things are taking place. So that's my only comments. And again, I want to thank all of you for the hard work you're doing. And I don't know if I have the patience to sit there and read through the whole homeroom charter, although some of the actions of the bureaucrats lately have been making me read all the ordinances, which is not fun either. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for being here. I do want to tell the members we appear to be moving pretty well. Probably, I know, Joe, you had the group that's going to speak next meeting.
Next meeting.
That may take an hour, I guess.
I would think so.
But we're on this last section, so I want you all to be thinking about what changes you want, because we're about ready to finish up, and then we'll go back and say, okay, what did we look at or didn't look at, and what we want, okay?
Can I just ask?
Sure.
Joe, did the council undo the May 24th deadline for our final submission?
I think so, right?
I thought y'all went to July or something.
I must have missed it then, so it's been pushed back 60 days?
I'm sure we did.
Okay.
To July, I thought.
I just wanted to
Yes,
make sure
July.
that we don't have a May deadline.
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought you did, but we're moving pretty good, so I think the next
Good,
couple of meetings, we still got some more research in the next one, but
Good.
then the next couple of meetings, we need to be,
Yeah,
I make a motion, or I don't make a motion, okay?
We're getting there. We are getting there.
Great. Staff, thank you again for doing this on the east side of the parish.
Thank you.
Thank the commission members for their comments. Yes, ma'am?
What are we gonna have next?
I'll be here.
The representative from the
ICMA?
county.
Let's see if I remember. I think it's ICMA. Let me double check it.
International County Commissioners Association. Am I saying that right?
Yep, you hit it. International City County Management Association.
Yeah.
They're going to speak about a council manager form of government, the pros and cons, and give us their experience and shed some light on it in general.
We didn't know they existed at the time when we were going through that process, and Joe, yeah. I think it'd be good dialogue.
Track committee, have we started that one?
Yeah, you can explain it.
I know that's not.
but we brought it up track a couple times with this group. So yeah, so the Transparency and Resource Efficiency Committee is going to have, it's the Parish Council Finance Committee, and they are going to have a meeting during the Finance Committee meeting on Monday, immediately following agenda review at 2 o'clock. It's on the agenda that was put out today. Mm-hmm.
It's okay, Mary.
It's late.
I got the correct unit. It's like 1 out of a million. It's always the opposite.
We ready? All right, I got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So move. Second. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. We made it.